Welcome to the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Real inspiration for real innovators. If you're looking for innovation and leadership transformation, your journey starts now.
Welcome to the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Born. I would love for you to help us spread the word by leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Well, today I want to welcome Iceland to the list of 58 countries listening from around the world. Today, my guest is William Santana Li. Bill is an American entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience, and he has a broad range and deep expertise gained from several global assignments in the automotive sector and a number of startups. He's presently the chairman and CEO of Knightscope, developer of a crime-fighting autonomous security robots. I cannot wait for this conversation. Welcome to the podcast, Bill.
Hey, thanks for having us. Greetings from Silicon Valley. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Well, you know what? I need to know a little bit more about the backstory and the inspiration behind what you're doing today.
Well, we watched a bunch of movies like RoboCop and Terminator and all this other stuff. And we're like, yeah, we should just make those. And like, we can make them all work for Big Brother and everything will be fine. All kidding aside. So as a former automotive executive, I believe self-driving autonomous technology is really going to turn the world upside down. I'm just not necessarily in agreement in the path to commercialize the technology. So we've taken a little bit of a different approach. And second, I was born in New York City. Someone hit my town on 9/11. I'm still profoundly ticked off about it.
Yeah.
So the rest of my life, I'm dedicating to better securing our country.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, and when you think about 9/11, I mean, there was a lot of different ways people got into the fight. And I think this is a pretty exciting way to get into the fight for crime. So can we talk a little bit about this technology? I know you founded the company in 2013. How did you approach starting a business in this industry? I mean, this is not just one of these, easy to enter industries.
Natalie, it's super easy. Just put up a website, download the stuff from the cloud. Everything just appears. It's really straightforward. I don't know. It's a challenging sector. So the country's over 200 years old. We're on our 46th president. Crime has a $2 trillion negative economic impact on the U.S. every single year. Wow. It's a hidden tax we all pay in blood, tears, and treasure. Mm-hmm. And when someone shoots up a school or movie theater or some horrifying crime occurs every few seconds, either violent crime or property crime, like who gets fired? No one, because no one's accountable. And so that's problem number one. The problem number two is just a simple math problem. There are about 1 million law enforcement officers in the U.S. There are about 1 million security guards. They're running 24/7. So at any given time, there's only 500,000 humans trying to secure 332 million Americans across 50 states. Like that math just doesn't work, especially if you've got them out there with the technological equivalent of a number 2 pencil and a notepad. Mm-hmm. We would never, as a country, dare do that to a soldier, right? We've got 2+ million soldiers out there in a theater of war with every level of capability you might ever imagine and stuff you can possibly imagine. There's one person in charge, something goes wrong, that person gets fired.
That's right.
There is a Northrop Grumman, a Lockheed Martin, a Raytheon to build whatever submarine, jet fighter, crazy technology you want. There's a process, there's risk capital and the like. Surprisingly, on our own soil, we don't have that. So 19,000 law enforcement agencies, 8,000 private security firms. The Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security have no federal jurisdiction to put forth any risk capital, any innovation process or anything. And so that's why this thing is just broken. And therein lies the opportunity as well as the massive frustration. And I think we've got a shot to fix the problem.
Wow. So can we dig into what your technology is and then how that technology could potentially be deployed to fix some of the problems that you just mentioned?
So as I mentioned, there's only 500,000 humans trying to secure the country at any given time. So what we really need to do is build some technology that can give them eyes, ears, and voice on the ground in multiple locations at the same time. So these autonomous security robots that we have patrolling across the country, it's a unique combination of 4 technologies that are really hard unto themselves, and then we decided, oh well, it's not hard enough. Let's just combine them and put them all together. So it's autonomous self-driving technology, like a self-driving car,
Mm-hmm.
robotics, artificial intelligence, and electric vehicles.
Wow.
And the idea is to, one, provide that eyes, ears, and voice on the ground, as I mentioned earlier. But at the same time, a little less obvious is to provide a physical deterrence. So,
Mm-hmm.
very simply, if I were to put a marked law enforcement vehicle in front of your home or your office, criminal behavior will change. Just physically being there stops a lot of silly negative stuff from happening.
Yeah, it
So
stops me from speeding, so I get what you're saying.
exactly. Right? You're going down the highway, you see a patrol car on the side of the road. It doesn't matter what speed you're
Yep.
doing. You will
Yeah,
at least look down at your speedometer and possibly pump the brakes.
that's right.
And this is no different. So you pull into a parking lot, you want to steal a car at 3 o'clock in the morning. You see a 5 foot tall, 400-pound machine kind of roaming around, no idea what it does. There's no one remote controlling it. The strobe light's going. It says police or security on the side. It's making some interesting sounds and it might greet you. You know what? I think I'm not going to steal a car tonight, or maybe I'll
Right.
go somewhere else. And that's literally what's been happening across the country with our clients.
Wow. So what type of clients say, "Hey, I see what you guys are doing. I'm interested in this type of product." Like who has really been your early adopters here?
Big Brother. We try to gather as much data and just feed it to Big Brother so they can control everything, and Big Sister too.
Right.
Just kidding. There's just so much silliness that goes on in the
I can
media and
only
the public
imagine.
square.
Yeah.
Um, the robots are coming. They're going to kill everyone and take everyone's job.
Like
It's
the
like,
Terminator, right?
whatever. Like, have you not seen the movie? It's like science fiction. Emphasis on fiction.
Fiction.
So primarily our clients are can range anywhere from a corporate campus, commercial real estate, schools, manufacturing plants, logistics facilities, residential kind of HOA or apartments, um, casinos, hospitals, pretty much in there, anywhere indoors or outdoors, mostly outdoors, where you might see an officer or guard patrolling is likely an opportunity. And if you didn't see the announcement earlier this week, one of the major big public utility companies, PG&E, just doubled their order
Wow.
for the number of machines that they're going to be utilizing at their facilities. It's a couple of decades after 9/11. Time to start better securing the grid.
Right.
And we applaud and are thankful for PG&E's support in that regard.
Wow. So, you talked about just, for example, PG&E, right, doubling their order. So, can you talk a little bit about the data network that takes place in terms of, what these robots are seeing? Are they communicating that information back to anybody? Like, how does the information flow work with what they may be seeing in real time?
So the machines generate over 90 terabytes of data a year that no human's going to ever be able to process. So we
Wow.
put that in a digestible format for the user to utilize. Typically, the user is a security operations center, a security guard, a law enforcement officer, or literally 911 dispatch.
Hmm.
And they have a browser-based user interface that we provide to them that we call the KSOC. It's a Knightscope Security Operations Center. And there you can get a live feed of what's going on. There you can park a machine, you can speak through the machine as if it's a mobile PA system. You
Pretty
can
cool.
see that it can read several hundred license plates a minute. I'll give you just an example. So, for example, our clients might be a Samsung or a Bank of Hawaii or whatever, and let's say they or a school or someone like that terminated someone last week and it didn't go well, and
Hmm.
you're kind of worried they might come back. So you
Hmm.
can upload the profile pic of the person, the license plate, as well as all the MAC addresses for all their mobile devices. And
Wow.
literally the machine's on the lookout for those detections. And in the second that occurs, an alert goes to the officer or the guard or 911 with here's the information, here's a timestamp, here's a location. And again, it's eyes and ears
Hmm.
and voice so they can really actually do their jobs. And what we're trying to do is give the officers and guards almost superhuman capabilities
Hmm.
for them to be a lot more effective.
Are there other things that you can kind of, program the robot to understand, like what is and isn't a threat, or things like that. Can you talk a little bit more about how you've programmed the robot?
So I think over the long term, over the next, you know, 2 or 3 decades, what we need to really do is primarily around two axes. One is um, criminals and terrorists can be pretty much anywhere. So
Hmm.
we have to be everywhere. So we have different form factors for indoors and outdoors and stationary and mobile, but long term are probably a very wide portfolio along the x axis of different sizes of machines from extra, extra small incognito
Hmm.
to, massive machines roaming around cities and highways. Um, and then on the y axis is we want these machines to be able to basically see, feel, hear, and smell, and do 100 times more than a human could ever possibly do. So in the future, you would want these machines to be able to, I don't know, visibly see that someone's brandishing a weapon in an area that
Hmm.
they're not supposed to,
Hmm.
and then also do acoustic event detection and teach the machines this is what a car starting sounds like, this is what glass breaking sounds like, this is what
Wow.
a gunshot sounds like, this is what someone yelling help sounds like, and then again have these things provide that superhuman capability for the humans on patrol.
Wow. So, how do you think that these robots could potentially partner in the future with, like, police force or maybe soldiers? How do you, like, what is your vision for how you see, that the robot, kind of the machine and the man, kind of merging as far as just being able to interact and make honestly our police officers and our soldiers safer?
So two different answers. So I think the most uh, methodical, thoughtful way to think about this is in order to fix the problem, which is crime and terrorism, it has to be software plus hardware plus humans. You
Hmm.
need the machines to do the monotonous and computationally heavy stuff that no human can do, and you need the humans to do the decision making and enforcement.
Hmm.
The second part of the answer is I want to kind of clarify your question there. So we don't intend or ever plan to be on a battlefield. There's more than, you know, the Department of Defense has an $800 billion budget. Like we don't need to be investing more in technology there.
Hmm.
Uh, Obviously, we can certainly help the Department of Defense better secure a military base,
Hmm.
keep an eye on how the assets, have better eyes and ears for the military police to do their jobs. So we shouldn't be on the battlefield.
Wow.
Um, and if you talk to, some of my colleagues that are ex, law enforcement, ex SWAT, ex
Hmm.
military as well, they can tell you that, frankly, the criminal element and the terrorists are significantly more sophisticated in terms of technology,
Hmm.
on not the battlefield, but on our own cities and streets and communities, right? They do have the discretionary cash to hire more criminal elements, to
Yeah.
develop new things, to keep an eye on law enforcement, to try to defeat different systems. And the law enforcement security apparatus that we have in our country is failing and will not scale.
Yeah. Well, the scale part is, I think, the most concerning part. It's failing and not scaling. What would you say when you think about? I would love to maybe put yourself in the mind of a futurist, which in a lot of ways you already are. But where do you see this space going? You mentioned those four areas that you have brought together, right, to really create this innovation. Where do you see all these areas going, and how do you think that these things will continue to merge together in the future?
So the easiest way to predict the future, just create it. And that's kind of what we've been doing. Everyone told us when we started this in 2013, "Hey Bill, you're out of your mind. This will never work. It's hardware and software. It's too
Right.
complicated. You should pick one. And physical security is not an investment thesis. You need to go away." And the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur is ignore all those people and
Mhm.
go will into existence, and force what you want to happen. And that's what
Yeah.
we've literally done.
I
Um,
I
on a
wanna
go
know more
forward
about
basis,
your auto background too. Like, talk a little like, I'm just the curiosity bubbles just going off of, like, how has that played into what you've done here? I mean, how much, like, Are you more on the auto side? Do you understand kind of that software side, or are you partnered with, of course, probably phenomenal people that
Um,
do that piece?
so I'm an ex-car guy.
Yeah.
I spent a decade at Ford Motor Company. If you look at my LinkedIn profile during that tenure, I look unemployable because every few months I've got a new job. But I think I had 12 positions on 4 different continents over that 10 years. And
Wow.
I got to do basically everything. And Ford was an awesome, awesome training ground. I did, component systems and vehicle engineering,
Hmm.
manufacturing rationalization, finance, marketing, strategy. I was director of mergers and acquisitions. I built a company for them. I had bought about 11 companies, so 22 companies in 11 months.
Wow.
Had about 600 employees, and that gave me the entrepreneurial bug.
Hmm.
But I'm not a roboticist, right? Everyone's, well, you're a robotics company. No, we're an advanced physical security technology company.
Hmm.
I frankly don't care what technology we work on. I'm focused on fixing the problem.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, in order, I think, to fix the problem efficiently so that society can actually afford it, um, is to do what we did, which is come up with a autonomous security robot that can really provide a lot of value for
Yeah.
minimal cost. But to answer your question, there's to me the robots look like a really easy car to build. Um, like I've got no glass, I've got no pyrotechnics for airbags, I've got no seats. I don't, there's a bunch of stuff I don't,
Hmm.
and it's a lot easier to build than 13,000 parts, and you got to get 60 jobs an hour out the door. This is a little
Wow.
bit easier in some regards, and a lot harder than a car because no
Wow.
one's ever done this before.
Wow. I would love to, it makes me curious about your organization's vision and mission. Like when you think about your vision, um, it doesn't, to your point, it doesn't have to focus on how to do it. It focuses on the problem to solve, which I think sometimes we get focused on the wrong things with a vision. And I would love to maybe talk a little bit more about how you came to the vision of the organization.
I think 9/11 started the fire,
Hmm.
the outright anger, and
Yeah.
then I think Sandy Hook, that was the last straw.
Yeah.
Um, and I think since Sandy Hook, it's what, 3,500 mass shootings, and
Mhm.
we have made a lot of progress. If you go to knightscope.com/crime, you can see all the wonderful things these machines have already done, and we're just getting started. But it's taken way too long to build the technology. It's taking too long to scale things up, but we'll get there. This problem was created over a couple hundred years. We're not going to fix it in a couple years.
Hmm.
uh, but I get most excited when, hey, we were able to help a law enforcement agency issue an arrest warrant for a sexual predator.
Wow.
We
That's
helped
awesome.
another law enforcement agency end a domestic violence dispute.
Wow.
We helped a security guard apprehend a thief, and another law enforcement agency apprehend an armed gunman. I mean, if you
Wow.
start going down that list, and we just got started, hey,
Hmm.
I thought this wasn't supposed to work, right?
Hmm.
And imagine if we're able to put a million of these machines out there to help the million officers and the million guards. I think we're going to put a massive dent in the problem.
Wow. Well, that's powerful, just hearing those stories because I think we all feel the same way in the sense that we are not solving this problem fast
No,
enough.
we're arguing about it. We're really,
Hmm.
the whole country's really good at arguing. It's like
Yep.
we decided that, we have the honor and privilege to wake up every morning in Silicon Valley and actually go work on the problem as opposed to arguing about it.
Yeah, that's powerful. What would you say to entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast? I love some of the push that you gave them earlier. What other thoughts would you have for them, especially thinking about your own journey since 2013 in this space?
I- I'll answer the question in a way that typically I try to do when we're recruiting, which is try to kind of scare the person away not to take the job. It's basically, hey, listen, you're a smart, educated person, you're rational. Startups will drain you physically, emotionally, psychologically. They'll drive you mentally mad. You'll have the worst day of your life on the same day as the best day of your life, within a few hours of each other. The founder's, diet is what? You get, punched in the face for breakfast, you get kicked in the stomach for lunch, and then you get body slammed for dinner. And then the next morning you got to wake up and smile and get back on, back in the ring, right? And so if you're going to go through that hell, you better pick something that you're passionately enamored, or really, really focused on, that you're willing to do the irrational, illogical, and sometimes stupid things to make sure that the vision that you're trying to build actually happens. If you pick something, oh, I'm going to do a startup, it sounds really cool. Like, this is not Hollywood. Like,
Right.
this is hard,
Yeah.
and 95% of startups fail.
Yeah.
And part of it is folks thinking that, oh, this looks glamorous, I'm going to go be on a podcast, and then I'm going to do my own blog, and I'm going to tweet about all the cool things I'm doing at my startup. And then they realize, oh, like, this is really hard, this is a
Yeah.
lot of hard work, and things go wrong. Your accountants don't care, your auditors don't care, your lawyers
Right.
don't care, your board doesn't care, your team, all your clients or whatever, nobody cares. Like, you're going to have to pick yourself up
Mm-hmm.
and dust yourself off and back in the ring every single day, not for weeks, not for months, but for years, if not decades, if you really want to be successful. So when you're figuring out what you're going to go work on, life is short. Do
Yeah.
what you love and make a big impact. And you better pick something that is really going to add some value to society, and not working on the next generation, whatever photo sharing app. Like, we got, is it serious times we need serious people to work on serious
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. That's so good. And I think that you've just given just a brilliant reality check to every person that thinks that they want to do entrepreneurship as a hobby. This is not a hobby.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm
yeah.
gonna side hustle my way through this, or I'm gonna take a class, and along with my MBA, I'm gonna have 1 or 2 semesters on entrepreneurship, and all of a sudden, voila, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not reality.
Well, what I love is that a lot of what you started out working on is what gave you the grit to understand what you wanted to do. It was kind of that intersection of experience and passion, especially after 9/11, and
I
you'd already
I
been doing the
laugh.
work.
I laugh because I hate getting old. And when you said 30 years, I'm like, oh my God. But the one thing I absolutely adore and love is the experience.
Yeah.
Like, Knightscope probably would have gone under more than a few times if I was in my 20s. Like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have known who to call, how to fix it,
Yeah.
when to get, in someone's face and when to back off. Like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have known, and I would have screwed it up.
Yeah.
And for us, like, our founding management team is the same team that was in 2013, is still running the company now.
Wow.
And for that, I'm eternally grateful for the team that we have. But the probability of founding a company, getting it funded,
Mhm.
growing it, and then listing it on Nasdaq, our ticker symbol's KSCP, if you want to learn more, like, is, I think, somewhere in the lottery category, like
Yeah.
1 in 350 or some
Mhm.
million crazy odds of doing that. So it is really hard. So you got to pick something that you're infatuated with, or possessed.
Yeah. Well, we all say that you have to have a little bit of an edge, right? You have to be,
You're too
like you said,
polite.
obsessed with the problem.
You're too polite. You got to have a
Gotta be
screw loose
crazy. No.
doing this.
That's so awesome. What final thoughts would you have for our listeners today?
Um, I think if we're going to accomplish our mission of making the United States of America the safest country in the world, there is no way that a bunch of ex-car guys, patriots, technologists, veterans are going to be able to do that by themselves.
Mhm.
Like, just before the public listing, we had closed, north of $120 million from 35,000 investors. And I think going forward, we're going to need a massive cross section of society to
Mhm.
help make this change, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure out how to innovate public safety, automate public safety, and make a difference in each and every single community. And if you want to learn more, just go to knightscope.com. There's all kinds of opportunities to engage, learn about the technology, get your mayor involved, get your chief of police, your sheriff, your school administrator, your hospital administrator, whatever it might be, because we're going to need a lot of support. And it's not going to be, a few hundred, a few thousand people. We're going to need a few million people to okay, I think we've had enough. I don't think the founders of our country ever expected us to build a society where going to work, going to school, or going to the movie theater literally came with the risk of being shot or killed. This nonsense is going to stop, but we can't sit on the sidelines thinking it's just going to automatically get downloaded from the cloud and stop. We have to actually go do something. So please come visit and learn a little bit more about what we're doing. If you really want to see the robots up close, we've got this crazy, I call it the robot aquarium, but if you go to knightscope.com/roadshow, we've got a crazy pod full of robots that are going around the country. We've done about 50 stops where you can come see, feel, and get your robot selfie in real life.
That's amazing. I'm checking that URL out right after this. Well, where can people find you personally? Where can they follow you?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter. It's Santana Li, and certainly on LinkedIn as well. But I appreciate you having us, and everyone, please be safe out there.
Thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate your time today. This has been such a fun episode. I got to be honest. When I found out that I was going to be interviewing you, I geeked out and, was really excited.
Very cool. I appreciate that.
Well, to our listeners, thank you for joining the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Remember, don't just get out of the box, break the box and set it on fire. Let's go transform something.
Thank you for joining us for the Innovation Meets Leadership podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our show on iTunes. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Innovation Meets Leadership, and visit our site at innovationmeetsleadership.com for more innovation resources.